Could you please explain Romans 9:18 through 22? Yeah, that can be a hard one, but we're going to take a step back and read a little more of the passage, verses 14 through 24. What shall we say then? Is there injustice on God's part? By no means. So, what he's telling us right off the bat is that it's going to seem like there's injustice, but there isn't. For he says to Moses, I will have mercy on whom I have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I have compassion. So God makes his own decisions. He does not require our approval. And if you've ever had the thought, well, I can't believe God would do that, well, then you're guilty of judging God. He's God. We're not. So then it depends not on human will or exertion, but on God who has mercy. Now, here comes the part where most people have a problem, at least trying to reconcile it with what they know of God. For the scripture says to Pharaoh, for this very purpose I have raised you up, that I might show my power in you, and that my name might be proclaimed in all the earth. So then he has mercy on whom he wills, and hardens whomever he wills. Right. So people are like, well, that means he's intentionally raising people who will be evil? Doesn't that make God evil? No, it doesn't. What it shows is that God truly knows people. As we see in this passage, Jesus had no need for anyone to tell them about him because he already knew what was in their mind, what was in their heart. And Jesus being God, we can assume that God in a spirit form, it's the same thing. God knows the hearts and minds of all men. So if he knows that this person can't be saved, that doesn't stop him from using those people to accomplish his goals. And whether people like it or not, everything belongs to the Lord, even you. Your body, your soul, your mind, you think that those belong to you? No, they don't. You didn't make yourself, so you don't have a right to claim yourself. So if God decides to use somebody to bring about his will, he has absolute sovereign right to do that, and he's not less moral for it. It's wrong for us to do it because we're not God. But we cannot hold God to our standards. And so Paul already knows what people's reactions are going to be. He says, you will say to me then, why does he still find fault? Who can resist his will? So he's saying, hey, well, why does God still blame us if it's God's will for me to be that sinner person? And then he gives you a response. But who are you, O man, to answer back to God? Will what is molded say to its molder, why have you made me like this? Has the potter no right over the clay to make out of the same lump one vessel for honorable use and another for dishonorable use? So what it's saying is God, knowing all ends, does allow some people to be made that will inevitably reject him, and yes, he does know it. But what we're missing here that will help you understand is this passage where Peter tells us that to God, 1,000 years is like a day, and a day is like 1,000 years. He's timeless. He's outside time. So not only does he already know the hearts and intentions of every man, he also knows the actions of every man because he's watching it happen. So from our perspective, which Paul's writing from, it looks like it's all planned out from God. And while he does orchestrate everything, we still are making our own choices. So Pharaoh would have made the same choices, but God hardened his heart to bring about the exact result he wanted. So if God allows people to go to hell, it's not because he wants them to. Quite the reverse. This passage, Peter also says that God is not willing that any should perish. He doesn't want them to. He rejects that idea. And so now Paul is just going to bluntly challenge everyone on this. What if God, desiring to show his wrath and make known his power, has endured with much patience? Endured with much patience. How about that? Which means there were opportunities for them. Vessels of wrath prepared for destruction, in order to make known the riches of his glory to the vessels of mercy, which he has prepared beforehand for glory, even whom he has called, not from the Jews, but only, but also from the Gentiles. So the whole point is that he has endured with people, giving them time, and they still make their own choices. He's just using what he's been given to bring about his own ends. So I hope that helps.